Let's look at our first example. It says calculate the value of each step. And when it's talking about a step, it just refers to one of these. And to work out the value of each step, we want to take the interval, so that is from 10 to 30, and we want to divide that into how many equal steps we've taken. Well, let's work out the interval size. So we're going to say that the interval is the difference between our end and starting point. So that would be 30 subtract 10, which is equal to 20. So our interval size is 20. We then want to divide that into how many equal steps there are. We have to be a little bit careful when we're counting the intervals. We need to count it between the black lines. So oftentimes people count one black line, two black lines, and so on, and they equate that with the number of steps that there are, but that's not quite the case. So instead what we want to do is we want to count between the black lines. So that would be 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and so on. And we can see that that overall interval is split into 10 equal steps. So what we can say is that 1 step is equal to the total interval, which was 20, divided into 10 equal steps, which gives us an answer of 2. So each step is equal to 2. So pause the video and give this question a go. Let's run through it. So let's work out our interval to start with. We can say that the interval is the difference between our start point and our end point. So the interval in this case is going to be 30 subtract 14, which is equal to 16. And we want to know how many equal steps have we split our interval into. So remember, we count our steps between the black lines. So there are 8 steps in this case. And what that means is 1 step is our interval of 16 divided into 8, which is equal to 2. Okay, so let's look at a slightly harder example with some decimals. Calculate the value of each step. So the first thing we want to do is to work out the interval size. And the interval in this case is between 12 and 16.5. So our interval size is 16.5 subtract 12. And it's a non-calculator question, so what we want to do is we want to use our column subtraction. So we'll take 16.5 and we'll subtract 12. Make sure our place value columns are lined up and our decimal points as well. 5 subtract 0 is 5. Put down our decimal point. 6 subtract 2 is 4. And 1 subtract 1 is 0. So 16.5 subtract 12 is 4.5. And again, like before, we want to split that interval into equal steps. We count our steps like this, 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to take our interval and divide it by 3. So we'll say 1 step is equal to our interval of 4.5 divided by 3. It's non-calculator, so let's set up our short division. We're going to do 4.5 divided by 3. 3 goes into 4 once, with 1 left over. 3 goes into 15 5 times. So 4.5 divided by 3 is 1.5. Okay, so pause the video and give this question a go. Make sure to put all of your answers in the comments at the end. Okay, so let's go through this one. Let's start by working out our interval size. The interval is the difference between 37 and 10. So we'll do 37 subtract 10, which is equal to 27. And we want to know how many equal steps we've split our interval into. In this case, it will be 6. So to work out the value of 1 step, we'll take our interval and divide it by 6. Okay, so let's set up our short division for this. We need to do 27 divided by 6. Okay, I know it's going to be a decimal because 6 doesn't go into 27 a whole number of times. So I'll put down some zeros for later. So 6 goes into 27 4 times to give me 24 with 3 left over. 6 goes into 30 5 times. So 27 divided by 6 is equal to 4.5. And that's the value of each step. Let me know in the comments if you got that one right. At this point, if you're following along in our lesson booklets, you can pause the video and complete exercise 1 of the independent practice. Okay, so let's look at a slightly different type of example. It says, write the number the arrow is pointing to. And what we're going to do is we'll start this question in the exact same way. We want to work out the overall interval. So that would be the difference between 43 and 3. So we'll say the interval is equal to the difference between 43 and 3, which is of course 40. And then we want to see how many equal steps we split the interval into. And in this case, we split it into 10. So each step will be worth whatever our interval was. So that was 40 divided into 10 equal steps. So each step is worth 4. Okay, so now we want to find the value that the arrow is pointing to. And there are a few different ways we can do this. One way is just to count up manually. So we can do 3 add 4. Okay, that would give us 7. And then we can just keep adding on the equal steps because we know what they are. So 7 add 4 is 11. And then we'll add 4 to 11. 11 add 4 is 15. And then we'll do 15 add 4. And it gives us a value of 19. So our arrow is pointing to 19. So the other way we can do the question a little bit more efficiently is just count how many steps we've added to 3. So that's 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and 4 steps. So we can start at 3 and add on 4 equal steps. So we'll start at 3 and we'll add on 4 lots of our steps, which is 4 lots of 4. We'll do our 4 multiplied by 4 first because of our order of operations. And then we'll do 3 add 16, which gives us 19. One other way we could do it is we could actually start at the end and count how many steps we'd have to take away from 43. Okay. In this case, the arrow is much closer to the 3, so it makes sense to start at the 3. But if the arrow was down here, for example, it might make sense to take away steps from 43. Pause the video and give this one a go. And remember to leave all of your answers in the comments at the end. Okay, now let's run through this example. Write the number the arrow is pointing to. So to begin, we want to work out what each step is worth. So let's have a look at the overall interval size. Well, it's the difference between 29 and 5. So we'll say that the interval is 29 subtract 5, which is equal to 24. And we know that we're splitting it into 8 equal steps in this case. So each step will be equal to 24 divided by 8, which is equal to 3. And in this case, it makes a lot more sense to start at 29 and count backwards. So we need to go back 2 steps. So I'll take 29 and I will take away 2 of my steps. And remember, each step was 3. I'll do my multiplication first. So 29 subtract 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 29 subtract 6 is 23. My answer is 23. If you're enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel and like this video. It really helps us to grow. Okay, so let's look at our next example. Write the number the arrow is pointing to. We've got a number line. It's given us the interval between 8 and 13. And we know we're definitely going to have to count backwards because our arrow is before our start position. So let's start in the same way. Let's work out what our interval is. So the interval is the difference between 13 and 8. The interval is equal to 13 subtract 8, which is 5. And we've split that interval into 2 equal steps. So 1 step is going to be 5 divided by 2. Okay, and it's non-calculator still, so let's set up our short division. We'll do 5 divided by 2. 2 goes into 5 twice, with 1 left over. 2 goes into 10 5 times, so 2.5. Okay, so our arrow is before 8, so we want to count backwards in this case. We're going to go back 2 steps from 8. So we'll take 8, and we'll take away 2 steps of 2.5. So we'll do 8 subtract 5, which is equal to 3. Okay, pause the video and give this one a go. All right, let's run through it. So it says, write the number the arrow is pointing to. Let's start by working out our interval. So our interval is the difference between 14.5 and 7. Our interval is going to be 14.5 subtract 7. Let's set up our column subtraction. So 14.5 subtract 7. 5 take away 0 is 5. 14 take away 7 is 7. So our answer is 7.5. Okay. Then we want to look and see how many steps have we split that interval into. In this case, we've split it into 5 steps. So 1 step is going to be 7.5 divided by 5. Let's set up our short division. So 7.5 goes inside our bus stop, so to speak, and 5 goes outside. 5 goes into 7 once, put down our decimal point, with 2 left over. 5 goes into 25 5 times. So 7.5 divided by 5 is 1.5. We then want to look and see how many steps so we went backwards from 7. So we went 1, 2, 3 steps backwards. So to work out the value that our arrow is pointing to, we're going to do 7, subtract 3 steps of 1.5. And it's non-calculator, so we need to do 3 multiplied by 1.5 first. So let's set up our column multiplication. So 3 times 5 is 15. Put on our decimal point and carry over our 1. 3 times 1 is 3. Add on our 1 is 4. So 3 times 1.5 is 4.5. Let's take a new line because we're running out of space. 7 take away 4.5 is what we want to do next. Again, let's set up our column subtraction. We'll do 7 and we'll take away 4.5. Okay, 0 subtract 5 we cannot do, so we're going to have to do some exchanging. And we'll write down 6 and carry over a 1. 10 subtract 5 is 5. 6 subtract 4 is 2. So 7 take away 4.5 is 2.5. And that's what our arrow is pointing to. At this point, if you're following along in our lesson booklets, you can pause the video and complete exercise 2. Okay, so let's have a look at our last type of example. It says find the midpoint of the number line. And we're going to be allowed to use a calculator in this example. Now we could do this in the same way that we did the previous ones. We could work out the value of each step and add on the steps to 1 to get to our midpoint, or of course we could take away steps from 29. But actually there's a different way we can do this. To work out the midpoint, we can add our start and end points together and divide by 2. So we can say that the midpoint is the sum of our starting point and our end point divided by 2. We'll do 1 add 29 to give us 30. We need to divide that by 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So our midpoint is 15. Pause the video and give the question on the right a go. Remember to put all of your answers in the comments of the video. Okay, so let's run through the one that you did. Find the midpoint of the number line. So we know that the midpoint is the sum of the start and the end divided by 2. So the midpoint in this case is going to be equal to 12.5, 25.5 divided by 2. So I'd use my calculator and I'd type that entire calculation into my calculator and it gives me an answer of 19. If you're following along in our lesson booklets, now complete exercise 3 and 4. Thanks for watching the video. At Maths Logos, we offer online lessons and self-paced courses. So if you're interested, try our baseline assessment. The link is in the comments.